Hello, everybody. This is episode number 44 of the Vanguard Report. Greetings to all our fellow workers in the vineyard. Today is April 6th, 2015. All right. We have concluded that even if you shut up about feminism, the feminist war against men and all things male will continue. No, that is not a men's rights statement. It is just a plain and simple observation of reality. Feminism is hostile toward men and all things male. It's just the way things are, and we're just telling it like it is. Reality, folks, gotta love it. So again, even if you shut up about feminism, the feminist war against men and all things male will continue. And as we all know, this is a war which escalates. It begins with a war against men and all things male, but it quickly expands and spills over into other sectors. Pretty soon it turns into a war against anything that will get in the way of feminism's war against men and things male, which pretty much means that it turns into a war against the world, meaning the world outside of feminism, which sounds like not a very healthy kind of war, if you ask me. So, but still, so why shut up about feminism? What possible benefit might arise from doing so if they're going to carry on with this war either way? I mean, you could put it that way. You could say, if they're going to wage war either way, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So what possible benefit could arise from either option? Well, the answer is that the feminists very clearly want you to shut up about feminism. Very clearly. They themselves want you to shut up about feminism. This is relatively clear to anybody who studies them for even a short time. And if you have studied them for years, as some of us have done, it becomes blazingly self-evident, like the noonday sun, when the feminists say, "You don't really care about men, you're just anti-feminist." They're just attempting to draw the conversation away from feminism as a topic. They're also attempting to separate the people who attack feminism from the people who promote men's rights, whatever that might mean. You see, if they establish men's rights as a freestanding topic all by itself, separated from anything to do with attacking feminism, well, this benefits feminism in at least 2 ways. First, it draws critical attention and social heat away from feminism per se. Second, it deep sixes the question of feminism's moral responsibility for men's problems, and leaves the entire conversation about male issues open to a feminist takeover. That's a pretty neat thing from a feminist point of view, to be let off the hook from any possibility of culpability and be able to take over the conversation. I mean, totally control the conversation. Well, that's what they've always done, and that's what they want to continue doing. They see the possibility that this will be snatched away from them, and they don't want that to happen. So if you're a feminist, it's a win-win-win all the way around if people stop talking about feminism. For as we mentioned on last week's episode, the feminists never talk about feminism. That's right. They never talk about feminism. They only talk around it or past it. But when you insist on making feminism the bullseye, the pivotal point in all of your political discourse, it becomes impossible to talk around feminism any longer. The talk spirals closer and closer to ground zero being the real home truth about feminism. The talk spirals closer and closer to that ground zero, yes, and the feminists know this. They are painfully well aware of this, and they don't want things to go there. That is why they don't want you talking about feminism. And that is why you, me, all of us must keep talking about feminism, come hell or high water. And at the same time, get more and more people to do just the same. Let's talk about feminism. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Are you with me? All right. That was your opening monologue. I am your host, Thiel Bogan, the counter-feminist, here on episode number 44 of the Vanguard Report. And with me, as always, is Mr. Nick Redding, man of Canada and a true son of the Alberta Prairie. Nick, say hello to everybody.
Hey everybody, this is Nick Redding with mensrightsedmonton.com. Check out my YouTube channel, Men's Rights Edmonton, and you can follow Men's Rights Edmonton at Men's Rights Ed on Twitter. And if you're in Edmonton, or if you know someone in the Edmonton area who's interested in this stuff, come on by or tell your friend to come to mensrightsedmonton.com and drop me a line. I'd love to talk with any MRAs, activated non-feminists in general. MRAs, MGTOWs, what you got in the Edmonton area.
I think Nick means to say if you're not cool with feminism, he's cool with talking to you.
Yeah, that's about the long and short of it there.
That's the long and short of it, and I said it shortly. Well, anyway, this is, I believe, if I haven't lost track, this is, I think, the third episode where we are the only ones on the Monday double feature. There is no Monday double feature. It's just the Vanguard Report. Blue collar, red pill radio. That show is, until further notice, still in mothballs. So we got a 2-hour time slot stretching ahead of us. I don't promise that we can fill all of it, but we'll give it a good run. So, we're going to talk about the Redstockings Manifesto. Has anybody out there heard of the Redstockings Manifesto? Has anybody out there not heard of the Redstockings Manifesto? That would be a more important question, a more significant question. Really, everybody needs to know about the Redstockings Manifesto. And in a little bit, we're going to read through the entire thing. It's not terribly long. And we're going to talk about it some. But first, just for a warm-up, let's go to cue number 1 on your list. It's a pretty short list today. Cue number 1. This is at thecollegefix.com. Just a little article about an interesting subject, rape. And let's see what we got here. Oh, yes. After 6 months of hell, student accused of rape acquitted by jury. Not just a story about rape, well, a story about alleged rape. It's a story about a male college student involved in a rape culture drama or rape drama, however you want to put that. Anyway, it seems to be a lot of that kind of stuff happening these days. You know, rape is just real big, and everybody is banging the rape gong for all it's worth. After 6 months of hell, student accused of rape acquitted by jury. He said their dorm room sex was consensual. She said it wasn't. He said, she said. In the end, the jury believed him. Well, today, all of you listeners out there, we are the jury, in a manner of speaking. Former University of Hawaii Manoa student Tyler Strong, 19, was acquitted Friday of rape stemming from an incident that occurred September 21st after a night of drinking. Ooh, there's a trifecta. It's rape, it's college rape, and it's rape involving alcohol. A night of drinking. The jury deliberations took 4 days, so they didn't take it lightly, did they? The jury deliberations took 4 days to weigh the 3 counts of sexual assault charges filed against the teen. If found guilty, he faced up to 20 years in jail. Now, that's a pretty big chunk out of anybody's life. 20 years. Longer than he's been alive. An emotional strong, I like that, an emotional strong spoke to reporters after the verdict, saying, "I am very relieved, and truth will win out, and this is a great example of the fact that the truth does set people free." Yeah, well, truth can do many things. I suppose setting people free is one thing it can do. But Strong also has some words of wisdom for his male college peers. Understand that society today doesn't favor young men, and you need to, as a young man, protect yourself, he said. So, Tyler Strong, to our knowledge, is not involved with any kind of a men's rights movement or anything. He's just a young dude out there going to college, trying to make his way in life, stepped into a trap, a man trap, and he is propagating the message. He is propagating a men's rights message, whether he considers himself a member of the men's rights movement or not. And by the way, you don't have to be a member of the men's rights movement to propagate a men's rights message. Okay. His mother, Dawn Strong, offered similar sentiments. "It's been 6 months of hell," she said. "I would just say that, like my son said, if you are a young man in today's society, our pendulum has swung the wrong way." Oh, ain't it great? He's got his mom backing him up now. Sounds like this is going mainstream. According to Hawaii News Now, much of the testimony had centered on whether the young lady who lodged the allegations gave verbal affirmative consent to their intercourse. Strong said he was close friends with the accuser before the incident on the morning of September 21st. Emma Sulkowitz and Paul Nungaser, anybody? Okay. "We were flirtatious. We also shared intellectually intimate moments with each other, like platonic friendship." Strong, now living at home in Oregon, testified he and the accuser had spent the night with each other on a previous occasion. "We kissed and cuddled all night, then slept." He said on the night of September 20, there was drinking in his dorm room. The girl was there but left between 11:30 and midnight. Later, after a series of text messages between the two, the girl returned to Strong's dorm. "What was going through your head at this point?" asked his attorney, Jeffrey Hawk. "That she wanted to sleep with me tonight," Strong answered. Once in his bed, the two started kissing and had sex. "When you started to have sex with her, did she say no?" Hawk asked. "No, she did not," replied Strong from the stand. Here is where it starts to get interesting. She did not say no. Okay, let's read further. "Did she say stop?" Hawk continued. "No, she did not," Strong answered. What I'd like to know is, did they have audio capture in the room at the time of that conversation? How do they know who said what if there was no audio capture of the event? They have only 2 people say so, and clearly their say so conflicts. Strong testified it was after the encounter that the girl became distraught and started crying before leaving the dorm room. So she consented, and then she withdrew her consent after the fact. Sounds like it. Under cross-examination, the state tried to show that the alleged victim did not give consent. Okay, cross-examination. He said, she said, his word against hers. Didn't say, yes, give it to me, right? Asked Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Kristen Yamamoto. No, she did not, Strong answered. She didn't say, yes, Tyler, I want to have sex with you, said Yamamoto during cross-examination. No, she did not, Strong replied. Okay, so she didn't say no, but she didn't say yes. I don't know what the law is in Hawaii. I don't know if they have the yes means yes law in Hawaii or not. So, maybe that aspect of the law has not yet been settled in that part of the world. But let's read on. According to a report from KITV Honolulu, Strong had added during testimony that the young lady's physical actions that night were clear. When you started to have sex with her, did she say no? Said defense attorney Jeffrey Hawk. No, she didn't, said Strong. Did she do anything to indicate she didn't want to do this? Said Hawk. No, in fact, she was continually kissing me the entire time, pulling me closer to her body, said Strong. Well, I guess that's not a yes, according to a lot of feminists. Strong indicated his belief was the night. Oh God, they need proofreaders here. What does this say? Strong indicated his belief was that the night was the culmination of a developing relationship, a belief that the prosecution tried to shoot down. The 18-year-old accuser had testified Strong raped her, that she repeatedly told him to stop. She said on the stand that she ran out of the dorm room in tears and collapsed on the campus grounds, according to news reports. But there was no evidence of physical assault. In the end, it was her word against his. There you go. She said, he said. Who do you believe? In closing arguments, Hawk pointed out that the young lady had admitted that she went to Strong's room to get a guy she liked jealous. Oh my God. Now, this is where the plot thickens. The young lady had admitted that she went to Strong's room to get a guy she liked jealous. So she went to his room, apparently had sex with him, because there was some guy she liked and she wanted to make him jealous. Okay. In her own words, she wanted to get revenge. She knows Tyler's alone. She knows Tyler wants to be with her. She picks Tyler and she goes there, Hawk had said. Who goes to a friend, someone you like, someone who trusts you, and decides to use that person to get back at someone else? It's deceptive, manipulative, and just plain crazy. I would agree it's deceptive and manipulative. The crazy part could be debated. Nick, do you have any thoughts about all of this?
Yeah, you're right about the crazy part could be debated. People form ill intent without being crazy all the time, especially when they feel emboldened, and encouraged, as many young women are to do something like that.
In today's feminist rape culture.
Yeah. Well, I mean, rape culture.
The rape culture. There you go. Feminism's rape culture. So this was a good little. This whole story here was a good little case study, I think. Basically, there is no case here. The case should be thrown out of court, should be dismissed. We had two witnesses. He said, she said. There was no corroboration from anybody else. There was no evidence, as I gather. No forensic evidence. They don't say anything about a rape kit.
I
Yes,
don't think it should end at being thrown out of court. Like if it's that obvious, how long he was facing? What, 20 years?
he was facing 20 years, so it says in the
He
story.
gets he gets nothing. He gets no time.
Well, he was acquitted, so I assume he's getting no time.
No, no, the woman,
I'm sorry.
the accuser,
Oh, the accuser.
she should get.
Oh, she gets no time, and you are pointing out the fact that she gets no time. She gets no penalty under law,
Yeah,
and you think that's an issue that should be given some more weighty consideration. Yes.
she came up with a plot to take away 20 years of his life, and that's not a crime. And the thing is, it is a crime. It's criminal mischief. That's in Canadian code anyway. I don't know what it is in American, but in Canadian code, filing a false police report, like making it a false, making a false accusation like this. So, well, no, it's only criminal mischief if you make a false accusation against someone towards anyone other than the police. So, no, I'm wrong about that. But it really ought to be punishable by law. There ought to be they should expect to have a punishment waiting for him. I mean, if you can't prove that the guy did it, that's one thing. But if you can prove that she lied, then she's fucking guilty of a crime, or at least
Yeah,
she ought to.
I don't gather that there was any proof of her lying here. I mean, it looks suspicious.
What about her saying that she went with him to get another guy jealous?
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know how my mind skipped out on that. Yeah, well, if she said that,
like, like we've got. I mean, it's pretty clear that he got let off because it was so obvious that she was lying.
he got let off, but she got let off too. I mean, they
Yeah,
both got let off.
yeah. But her card didn't even get recognized. And um, yeah, it ought to be. I mean, people say that punishing a false accuser would discourage actual victims from coming forward, but that's bullshit. That's like saying that punishing fraudsters will discourage legitimate businessmen from starting up businesses.
That's like saying, well, you could apply that same standard to any number of crimes,
Yeah,
uh, and it would have no more logic in any of those cases.
yeah. So I mean, it's they're just throwing out some rationale, and the people eat it up. But yeah, there should definitely be punishment. I mean, a lot of people have come in, like even people like I came to this conclusion on my own when I was pretty young, and I've heard other people say it. Like when Raz was on a radio show, somebody called in and said that uh, false accusers should get the amount of time that their intended victim is facing.
So then, by that theory, this young woman should get 20 years in prison.
I would, you know what? 20 years is quite a stretch. I mean, maybe it could be mitigated somehow, but like, yeah, she should be facing some fucking jail time, dude.
Well, I mean, she ought to face some consequences. I think you're right about that. What she did was a very, very, very bad, reprehensible thing.
Yeah. But
And
that's what I think about that.
it's sad that our society does not take this sort of thing seriously. Um, Feminists tell you that there's no such thing as misandry. Well, there's something going on here. Uh, is this the patriarchy that does this?
Yeah, yeah.
You
Okay.
gotta wonder. You gotta wonder about all of this. Anyway, so she ran out of the room crying, apparently, after having sex with him. Um, I think, well, just my theory here, but I think she got cold feet when she realized what she was doing.
Yeah, I think that might be a
Or
fact.
either that, or she was putting on an act. She was being an actress and staging the whole thing for the drama effect.
Well, I think that might be a factor with a lot of these false accusations. Some young woman gets emotional, and in an emotional state, she makes a false allegation, and then she has to stick with the story, which means she has to keep on telling more lies and more lies.
And she gets into a quicksand that she can't handle, and
Yeah, and the more
sanity
lies she's
temporarily
told,
leaves
the more. Sorry.
and then her sanity temporarily goes out the window.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the more lies she's told, the worse it looks on her.
And
Yeah,
on it goes.
yeah. So she just has to. Yeah, it's a shame.
Well,
But
his name, Tyler Strong. Maybe I shouldn't be repeating his name. I'm sorry, Tyler. His name is out there now, and his name is going to be tainted forever. You know, just by having been involved.
yeah, and no one's gonna know who did this to him, so people don't know to stay the hell away from her.
It's going to be on Google. It's going to be everywhere. Yeah, this is pretty bad. This is something that feminists don't care about. As far as the feminists are concerned, this sort of thing can just go on and on. They're okay with that. Amanda Marcotte's just fine with stuff like this happening. Jessica Valenti is just fine with stuff like this happening. Any number of feminists out there are just fine with stuff like this happening. Guys, that's your good super friends, the feminists for you. Don't you just love those feminists? Don't you just love feminism? Of course, I know that not all feminists are like that. The ones who aren't like that, in a way, they're worse. But we'll get into that conversation some other day. Anyway, now, as I promised you earlier, let's move right along to the main meat of the program this evening. We are going to talk about the Redstockings Manifesto. And I am still surprised at the number of people who have never heard of the Redstockings Manifesto. For that matter, I'm surprised at the number of people who have not heard about the Scum Manifesto, although a lot of people have heard about the Scum Manifesto. The Scum Manifesto was clearly the product of a sick mind. I don't think anybody would dispute, not even the majority of feminists would dispute, that Valerie Solanas had a very sick mind indeed. And she tried to kill somebody, Andy Warhol. The Scum Manifesto is very popular right up to this day. Google around, and you'll find it's all over the place. Dig around a little more, and you'll find feminists everywhere talking about it, enthusiastically quoting it. It's a popular work of literature, the Scum Manifesto. It is a classic work of feminist literature. And it is, as we say, the magnetic north of feminism. If the compass needle of feminism points to anything, it points to the Scum Manifesto as to the North Star. Yeah. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the Scum Manifesto. We're here to talk about something else, the Redstockings Manifesto. The Redstockings Manifesto is a radical feminist document. It's pretty strong stuff. It's just not quite as tabloidy, you might say, as the Scum Manifesto. But in a way, it's better as a document, as evidence of what feminism is, because there is no doubt that the Redstockings Manifesto is a work of feminist literature. The Redstockings Manifesto was written by a radical feminist group in New York City in 1969 called the Redstockings Group. They were a group of young radical intellectual women with Marxist leanings, hence the red in the red stockings rather than saying blue stockings. The author, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the main author was Shulamith Firestone, author of The Dialectic of Sex, the late Shulamith Firestone. And boy, she was a real nut job, let me tell you. So this is cue number 2 on your list. look at Q number 2. That's the Redstockings Manifesto. It's posted online. The Redstockings group still exists. They're still a thing. They're still a going concern. And this is their website, redstockings.org. They're still at the same, have their address at the same New York City post office that they've always had ever since 1969. They've just changed to a different P.O. box, but it's the same post office, same zip code in Manhattan that it's always been for all these years. Today, we're going to read the Redstockings Manifesto to you, and we're going to comment on the Redstockings Manifesto. The Redstockings Manifesto is a very, very revealing document. I personally recommend sharing the Redstockings Manifesto with anybody who's new to the cause, anybody who's new to the resistance, anybody who's just recently had their political awakening and they're just getting up to speed and they need information, they need education. Hook them up with a copy of the Redstockings Manifesto, have them read it, and then sit down with them and talk about it. It's just a great place to start. It's like a drop of pond water that contains the entire pond when you put it under the microscope. So with no further ado, here is the Redstockings Manifesto. It's broken down into a series of numbered paragraphs, and we'll go through these one by one. The Redstockings Manifesto. 1. After centuries of individual and preliminary political struggle, women are uniting to achieve their final liberation from male supremacy. Redstockings is dedicated to building this unity and winning our freedom. All right, that's paragraph number 1. And there you have it. This is not a reform movement. This is a revolution. And they make that very clear in their first manifesto point. 2. Women are an oppressed class. Our oppression is total, affecting every facet of our lives. We are exploited as sex objects, breeders, domestic servants, and cheap labor. We are considered inferior beings whose only purpose is to enhance men's lives. Our humanity is denied. Our prescribed behavior is enforced by the threat of physical violence. Now, nowhere in the manifesto is any evidence given to support any of these claims. Presumably, the evidence is given elsewhere outside of the manifesto, but inside of the manifesto it's not there. So, paragraph number 2 announces women as an oppressed class, which means they are a class. And this is an earmark of radical feminism, that women are a political sex class. That is what separates radical feminism from more mainstream liberal feminism. Mainstream liberal feminism just wants to make reforms, wants to change a few laws, get equal pay, and all that sort of thing. Radical feminism classifies women as a political sex class, as a group with group interests. And that is a huge difference. That makes all of the difference. Half of the human race is a political class. Now, that may not sound like much, but the implications are enormous. Continuing on, point number 2 says, because we have lived so intimately with our oppressors in isolation from each other, we have been kept from seeing our personal suffering as a political condition. Again, this reinforces the theme of women as a political sex class. This creates the illusion that a woman's relationship with her man is a matter of interplay between two unique personalities and can be worked out individually. In reality, every such relationship is a class relationship, and the conflicts between individual men and women are political conflicts that can only be solved collectively. And here, they establish feminism as a collectivist movement or collectivist ideology. They continue on in the theme of women as a political sex class, and here we see the first little glimmer of the personal is political. Every such relationship is a class relationship, and the conflicts between individual men and women are political conflicts that can be solved collectively. So they're taking the personal dimension of life completely out of the conversation here. This is all political. You got to wonder if personal life even exists anymore in the feminist vision of the universe. But let's go on to item number 3. We identify the agents of our oppression as men. Men are the problem. There you go. We identify the agents of our oppression as men. Male supremacy is the oldest, most basic form of domination. All other forms of exploitation and oppression, parenthesis, racism, capitalism, imperialism, etc., are extensions of male supremacy. Men dominate women, a few men dominate the rest, meaning that there is a hierarchy of power with a few men dominating the larger masses of men, and then the larger masses of men dominate women, which I think is a highly and dangerously and childishly simplified picture of reality. All power structures throughout history have been male-dominated and male-oriented. Men have controlled all political, economic, and cultural institutions and backed up this control with physical force. Okay, doesn't the state always back up its control with physical force? Can anybody show me a state anywhere in the history of the human race that did not back up its control with physical force, at the point of a gun or the point of a spear or the point of an arrow or what have you? They have used their power to keep women in an inferior position. Debatable. All men receive economic, sexual, and psychological benefits from male supremacy. All men have oppressed women. That's the last statement in article number 3. All men have oppressed women. That's astounding. Nick, do you find that statement astounding? All men have oppressed women?
Well, I mean, yeah, yes. Like every single one of them have oppressed women, or is it that they? Well, I imagine if you follow this rabbit hole any further, you'll find that they've oppressed women just by being men. You have a very wordy way of saying that just by having a penis, just by that virtue, you've oppressed women.
Well, this is not especially wordy compared to other feminist literature I've read. This is pretty succinct. That's what I like about it. It doesn't waste your time. It cuts to the chase. All men have oppressed women. Well, again, they have that abstract men, the global phantom men, and then the global phantom women. Who is men? Who is women? It doesn't really say anything. It's an empty statement to say all X have oppressed Y. We have no idea what they mean by that. It's emotionally compelling, but what the hell does it mean? It's empty. Men is not anybody in particular. Women is not anybody in particular. I mean, break that down, parse that. Boy, it'll give you a headache. We don't know what this means to say all men have oppressed women, but boy, it's like beating all men over the head with a baseball bat, metaphorically speaking. Okay, let's go on to article number 4. Attempts have been made to shift the burden of responsibility from men to institutions or to women themselves. We condemn these arguments as evasions. Institutions alone do not oppress. They are merely tools of the oppressor. And that's an interesting statement right there. because there have been other feminists who will try to argue that institutions do oppress. But anyway, to blame institutions implies that men and women are equally victimized, obscures the fact that men benefit from the subordination of women, and gives men the excuse that they are forced to be oppressors. Forced to be oppressors. Is somebody forcing me to be an oppressor? I don't know what they mean there. On the contrary, any man is free to renounce his superior position, provided that he is willing to be treated like a woman by other men. This sounds like male garbage. I don't know what they're talking about here. Maybe I should know what they're talking about, but by God, I don't. Nick, do you have any idea what they're talking about here?
Can you repeat that?
I will read that entire paragraph again because it's worth savoring.
Yeah.
Attempts have been made to shift the burden of responsibility from men to institutions or to women themselves. We condemn these arguments as evasions. Institutions alone do not oppress. They are merely tools of the oppressor. To blame institutions implies that men and women are equally victimized, obscures the fact that men benefit from the subordination of women. What fact? And gives men the excuse that they are forced to be oppressors. On the contrary, any man is free to renounce his superior position, provided that he is willing to be treated like a woman by other men. Now, this is so deep it has no bottom.
Well, at the end there, the bit about any man is free to give up, their position as long as they're willing to be treated like women. Now, I know you don't like the term mangina, and neither do I, but they're talking about mangina.
Well, mangina is a recent political term. It hasn't been around for.
I actually heard it before any of this got into my life. Back in about 2004, I would say.
Well, yeah, it's been around that long, but I mean it's comparatively recent.
No, but when I was in 2004, I heard it. Someone told me that a mangina was a guy who would get repeatedly raped in jail.
No, so that sounds like prison slang then.
Yeah, that's what I was told.
That's a subcultural lexicology there. Well, somehow it made it.
But anyway, what I'm talking about is these guys, these emasculated, these psychological.
Well, self-loathing is their salient feature, I think.
Yeah, self-loathing. I call them intellectual castrata. Really, like they're just they. Oh, yeah. Anyway, no, these guys who are they're not gay, but they've taken on many effeminate ways about them. I just saw in the paper that part of the new trend in Tokyo are fucking man skirts, and I don't mean like kilts. I mean like they are dresses for men. But yeah, like that's so. As far back as 1969, we can see feminists coming right out and saying, "Men, you don't have to be lumped in with the oppressors. You can be you can be absolved of this by giving up your masculinity and adopting femininity."
Or as I would say nowadays, adopting gynonormativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gynonormativity, which is of course gynocentrism plus or gynocentrism 2.0. The more politicized version of gynocentrism, the more left-wing and specifically feminist version of gynocentrism. That's gynonormativity or gynonormativism. So this is sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Provided he is willing to be treated like a woman by other men. Well, these men that we're talking about right here, these manginas, quote unquote, and yes, I don't like that word for reasons I'll talk about some other time, but you know, those guys, those particular people, they just bring it on themselves. They really do. I personally have no problem with men who are more delicate and refined, more soft-spoken, you know, more intellectual, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm sort of that way myself, but I'm not, you know, I guess I'm not a mangina because I'm not a male feminist. At some point in time, I realized that feminism was a war on all men and on maleness, you know, in the abstract. And it was with a deep sense of personal betrayal that I realized this. And it didn't matter what kind of man you were, you know, you could be a, what shall I say, a macho alpha male, or you could be a more refined sort of man. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. They were out to get you if you were male. These people we call manginas are what they used to call sensitive males. Okay, they are basically politicized people. They have learned. They have internalized a sense of self-loathing, which feminism has injected into them. They have absorbed the zeitgeist of our time, the feminist zeitgeist, and they've gone along with feminism. They bought into the idea that men are somehow to blame for the oppression of women. Men are somehow to blame for most of the bad things that happen in the world, and they have become self-loathing, I'm sorry, little worms for whom I have no respect at all. Now, if they just want to be, you know, gentle, soft-spoken people, I would have no problem with that. But that's not what we're talking about here. And I'm just trying to get a fix on what the author of the Redstockings Manifesto mean when they say willing to be treated like a woman by other men.
Like,
it's not clear.
Well, I think it has an implication of subordinates, right? Given that that's the perspective that the author is writing from.
Okay.
I mean, how do I mean you know how men typically regard an effeminate man. They kind of make fun of him often, a lot.
Depending on what you mean by effeminate, though, I mean that's not a very clear word at all.
Well, okay. Did you ever see the footage of me at the rally for Men and Boys in Crisis in 2013 in Toronto?
Yes, I did. That's the one where you were saying that, you know, rape is fun or something. Rape is funny.
Well, I said a lot of things just to make the protesters flip their wigs, but the one guy who gave me the most grief, he was actually not Brian DeMattos, the short one that I told that rape was funny. He was a taller blonde guy who was wearing tights. He had shades, and he was the one with the megaphone. And he was very, very effeminate. I mean, if you recall the footage. But typically, when guys act like that, when guys are very like forcefully girly in their behavior,
aggressively girly, you might
yeah,
say. Like it's like they're shoving it in your face and they know it.
yeah, then they get made fun of. If there's a guy who's just, as you said, soft-spoken or more intellectual and more withdrawn, not quite a type A personality, they don't really get bothered. But
No.
and I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that from the perspective of that author, like I'm just trying to give you some insight. And you said that you didn't quite get what the author meant by treated like a woman by other men. And I think that if you if you're a man and you assume a feminine uh, stance, you know, or personality, when you're interacting with men and they treat you the way they would treat a woman.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
still not exactly clear. It's still not exactly clear, but there's something a lot deeper a lot deeper going on here. Anyway, are we having technical problems right now?
No, no,
We should not be having any technical problems right now.
no, we
Okay,
did
I
not.
heard
I got a notification from my Facebook, and it hit my phone at the same time. So
okay,
that's beeps and dings from my end there.
I heard that strange noise there. It's like the Google Hangout computer was exploding or something. Anyway, well, so that's all good. So let's move right along to the next paragraph in article number 4. We also reject the idea that women consent to or are to blame for their own oppression. Women's submission is not the result of brainwashing, stupidity, or mental illness, but of continual daily pressure from men. We do not need to change ourselves, but to change men. Boy, that is stunning. This is a get out of anything free card for women.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, really, if it was like that, then they would have developed a female version of MGTOW. Like, if like they have to change men, why don't they just go away? Oh right, because they need us. Yeah.
We do not need to change ourselves. Apparently, women are just fine the way they are. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
this was written back in 1969, everybody.
yeah. Sargon of Akkad says something about that. The same thing about social justice warriors in his new video. No, or one of his newest videos is that social justice warriors, they don't have to apologize for anything. They don't need to learn from you because they're just automatically right anyway. They just know everything anyway.
Yeah,
And that's exactly the same mentality here.
they are the cultural ruling class. Social justice warriors, hipsters, that whole tribe.
Yeah.
They think of themselves as the quote cultural ruling class.
Yeah, and they are right by virtue of being them, and they're here to tell you what's up.
They're right because they're right because they're right and because they're right. That's triumphalism, in a word. And that's post-argumental right there. They don't need to argue about it. They're just right. And they argue by smearing other people. They argue by telling lies about other people. It's really nasty to see them at work. The feminists and the social justice warriors and that whole sector of the political left.
And it all comes from this belief that they are fine, you have to change.
Mm-hmm. That is how they think. That very much accords with my own experience, my own observation.
And that is never like whenever you show them that they're wrong about something, that's you misbehaving, and that has to be corrected.
Right. This really, gives us a lot of leeway if you think about it. I mean, we're dealing with people here who fit the profile of the intractable other, the kind of person who just triggers or brings post-argumentalism into effect, who justifies using the post-argumental tactic. I mean, there's nothing you can do with these people. Nothing you say is going to change them. Nothing short of altering the balance of power between you and them. You got to gain more power, and then when you have more power, then they can't manipulate you anymore. So it's all a question of power and how you gain it. It's not about argument. It's not about rationality. It's not about any sense of fair play or justice. It's just about power. And that is the shitty, funky truth, I'm afraid to say.
Yep. And I mean, and here's the thing. Here's why I'm cautious about you saying that is because you're gonna have a whole bunch of people hear you say that, and then just decide that they can mistreat. I mean, you may or you may not. You can have people hear that and decide that they've got carte blanche because
To do exactly that, which was the problem in the first place. I mean, the people we're dealing with have been doing just that, and we're giving them a taste of their own. And it could be said that by doing this, we're just perpetuating the cycle.
Yeah.
I fully understand what you're saying, Nick.
No, like it could be said that, but the other side of that coin is that if you don't do it, then they're the only ones doing it and they win.
Mm-hmm. So this is not an easy game that we're playing here. I mean, this is a minefield no matter which direction you step in. Uh, unfortunate that we have lived to see such times, but then nobody who lives to see such times has any choice in the matter. So we reject the idea that women consent to or are to blame for their own oppression. So that to me sounds like carte blanche. Okay, that's post-argumental right there. Women are not to blame for anything. They can't do anything wrong. They're always right. Women's submission is not the result of brainwashing, stupidity, or mental illness. Never. Is it never the result of brainwashing, stupidity, or mental illness? Are they trying to tell us that women are never, ever brainwashed, stupid, or mentally ill? Apparently only men can be all of those things, but women can't. Continual daily pressure from men. So are we to understand that men do not experience continual daily pressure from women? And when feminism takes over, what's going to happen? The continual daily pressure from men will go away. Does that mean that the continual daily pressure from women will go away? Or maybe that continual daily pressure was never there in the first place, and only men were doing that? Is that what we are to understand here? I mean, this gets deeper and deeper the more you drill down into it. And I don't know where it ends. But that's the kind of critical attitude you need to adopt when you're thinking about these things. You need to understand that you don't have to take any of this on faith. Just about everything they say can be questioned. You can demand proof. You can demand clarification. You can ask them to be specific. Okay, everything about feminism, every feminist statement of any kind is up for question, and I do mean radical question. I mean pulling the stuffing out of the mattress, feather by feather. This is how we got to play it. Continuing. The most slanderous evasion of all is that women can oppress men. Ho, ho, ho. Apparently, women cannot oppress men. Women cannot oppress men. When feminism finally takes over the world, women will not be oppressing men.
And that's the most slanderous evasion. That's the worst thing to say.
That's the
Because
worst
it's,
thing you can say, is that women can oppress men.
yeah.
Well, maybe because it's the truth. It's not slander if it's the truth. And what is it evading? If you're making a simple statement, women can oppress men. Either you believe that women can oppress men or you don't believe that. I personally believe that women can oppress men. And yes, men can oppress women. I think human beings can oppress each other in every combination there is. And there's no reason why women are an exception to any of that. Oh, here we go. Now they explain themselves a little bit. The basis for this illusion is the isolation of individual relationships from their political context, and the tendency of men to see any legitimate challenge to their privileges as persecution. Okay, what privileges? Legitimate challenge. What about illegitimate challenge? Is there such a thing as an illegitimate challenge to a privilege? Again, I don't know what they're talking about here. They really, really, really need to explain this. This is where we pull the stuffing out of the mattress. Big time. Let me read that again. The basis for this illusion is the isolation of individual relationships from their political context and the tendency of men to see any legitimate challenge to their privileges as persecution. Well, I guess we are to understand that there's no such thing as men being persecuted. That tone was established in the first sentence where it says, the most slanderous evasion of all is that women can oppress men. So apparently women cannot oppress men, and it follows that men can just shut up and suck it up. Now we could distill this paragraph down to one sentence. Men, you are not oppressed. Suck it up. Which sounds like something you would hear on Tumblr or someplace like that. Wouldn't you say, Nick?
Yep. Or when they say that,
This was 1969, folks.
when they say that reverse sexism.
No such thing as reverse sexism, yeah. No such thing as misandry.
Yeah. Misandry don't real. Yeah.
Misandry don't real. So, none of that stuff is new. What we've been hearing from feminism has been going on since really early days, and I think you could say that 1969 was early days. And, these people that wrote the Redstockings Manifesto are really, for my money, no different from the Tumblr feminists that you see today. They're a little bit more educated and sophisticated. They come from a different generation, which was more sophisticated than the present generation. But other than that, they're cut from the same cloth, and they're saying the same things. And these early feminists have been the teachers of every feminist that's ever come down the pike, since then. And they haven't gone away. They are not the fringe. They are not the outliers. This is the core of feminism. It's about as feminist as feminism can get. Radical feminism is the only feminism. And the less radical it is, the less feminist it is. That's as simple as I can put it. So, article number 5 in the Redstockings Manifesto is as follows. We regard our personal experience and our feelings about that experience as the basis for an analysis of our common situation. Oh my God, the floor just dropped out from under my feet here. Our personal experience and our feelings about that experience form the basis for their analysis of their common situation, by which they mean the situation of women. Your feelings and your personal experience are the basis for your analysis of your common situation. And they're talking about women here. They're not talking about feminist women. They're just talking about women, the female half of humanity. Their feelings about their experience, that's reality to them. We cannot rely on existing ideologies as they are all products of male supremacist culture. We question every generalization and accept none that are not confirmed by our experience. You know what? I could take this entire paragraph that I just read, starting with we regard our personal experience and our feelings about that experience, that entire paragraph, and I could turn it around, change some of the keywords, and make that a text for post-argumentalism that could be spun around and thrown back at feminism. We cannot rely on existing ideologies as they are all products of feminist culture. We question every generalization and accept none that are not confirmed by our experience. Well, every feminist generalization and accept none that are not confirmed by our experience. This is just giving us the tools to turn the tables and, as I said, pull the stuffing out of the mattress. Everything about feminism can be critiqued, questioned, challenged, or in some cases rudely told to shut up. But anyway, here they're talking as feminists, purporting to describe the situation for women. Our chief task at present is to develop female class consciousness through sharing experience and publicly exposing the sexist foundation of all our institutions.
They have done that. I mean, they've achieved female consensus and exposed this sexism, but yeah, they've definitely achieved group status.
Well, what they've achieved is the feminist Borg, the feminist hive mind. And I don't want to rope the whole female population into this generalization here.
No, no. To be fair, it is a generalization, but both in the minds of many women and in the minds of the public at large, feminism and women are one big conglomerate.
even though they can be shown not to be upon critical examination.
Yeah, but that just gets thrown out the window.
Well, it gets thrown out the window. I think we can. I think we can close the window and board the window up so they can't do that anymore. I think there's ways we can do that. This is something we need to work on. We regard our personal experience, our feelings about that experience. Nope, I'm on the wrong paragraph. Okay, our chief task at present is to develop female class consciousness through sharing experience and publicly exposing the sexist foundation of all our institutions. Consciousness raising is not therapy, which implies the existence of individual solutions and falsely assumes that the male-female relationship is purely personal. See, they're trying to make the personal political here. But the only method by which we can ensure that our program for liberation is based on the concrete realities of our lives. When they say the concrete realities of our lives, they mean the concrete realities of the lives of the members of the Redstockings group and of the lives of other women anywhere similar to themselves. But the more dissimilar any given woman is from the members of the Redstockings group, the less that statement applies to them. They're not really thinking about all women there. They can't be. There's just far too many women to fit that narrow cookie cutter. The first requirement for raising class consciousness is honesty in private and in public with ourselves and other women. Okay, nothing wrong with honesty, I guess. Article 6, we identify with all women. We, feminists, members of the Redstockings group, identify with all women. Now, it's a question whether all women would identify with them, but they say they identify with all women. Of course, except when those women disagree with them, and then you start to wonder who identifies with whom. We define our best interest as that of the poorest, most brutally exploited woman. Yeah, all right, that's very noble. We repudiate all economic, racial, educational, or status privileges that divide us from other women. We are determined to recognize and eliminate any prejudices we may hold against other women, such as, for example, women against feminism, such as, for example, any female pop icon who stands up and says, I'm not a feminist. Well, there's a lot of women out there.
No, those women deserve to be censored.
Yes, they deserve to be censored. So they're not talking about all women, or maybe those women just aren't women. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Prejudices we may hold against other women. I have not seen a feminist yet who did not have strong prejudices against other women. So they have yet to make good on that claim. We are committed to achieving internal democracy. We will do whatever is necessary to ensure that every woman in our movement, there you go, in our movement, has an equal chance to participate, assume responsibility, and develop her political potential. That little phrase right there, in our movement, that gives it all away. You know they're not talking about women. You know, we identify with all women, and then a couple of paragraphs down, every woman in our movement. Well, we know where these people are coming from now. They're not all women. They are not themselves all women. They're a small group of women, and they don't speak for all women, and they don't really care about all women. I mean, well, we know abundantly that feminists don't care about all women. They love to use all women as their shield. They love to hide behind all women. They love to conflate themselves with women, with the female population in general, but they are not the female population in general. That's the worst trick in their entire book right there, conflating feminism with women. And that's something we need to overcome. We need to somehow block them from using that trick. And I think it can be done. I think there's ways to do that, but we got to put our minds to it, and then we got to roll up our sleeves and make it happen. But more on that some other time. Article 7. We call on all our sisters to unite with us in struggle. We call on all men to give up their, get ready, to give up their male privilege and support women's liberation in the interest of our humanity and their own. Here we go. 1969, there's the word or the phrase male privilege. Yeah, the phrase male privilege didn't come along in the last 15 years or so. There it was way back in 1969, and I'm sure it went back further than that. We call on all men to give up their male privilege and support women's liberation in the interest of our humanity and their own, meaning men's own humanity. So if men want to become fully human, they have to do what these feminist women tell them to do. In fighting for our liberation, we will always take the side of women against their oppressors. Well, that could be other women, right? Do feminists oppress other women? Nick, do you think feminists oppress other women?
I absolutely do. I know they do. I've seen it.
I know.
They come in and
I've seen it.
they make it so that they make it so that Janice Fiamingo can't have her talk at Queen's U. I mean, preventing a person from talking, from speaking their mind, is the most literal sense. It is oppression in the most literal sense.
Well, oppression means pressing somebody down, and I think they were pressing down Janice Fiamingo on her vocal cords there. In fighting for our liberation, we will always take the side of women against their oppressors. So I guess they're going to take their side. They're going to take the side of Janice Fiamingo against themselves. If they want to be consistent, I guess that's what they got to do. We will not ask what is revolutionary or reformist, only what is good for women. The time for individual skirmishes has passed. This time, we are going all the way. July 7, 1969. That's it. That is the Redstockings Manifesto. I just read the entire thing to you, interspersed with commentary. And that is cue number 2 on your list. I urge everybody who's listening right now to go there and read that online. And I also urge you to copy and paste the whole thing and have your own copy for your own files and share it around with other people. Because in this short document, written way back in 1969, you can see just about everything, or a foreshadowing or glimmering of just about everything that has come down the pike in all the years since. In 1969, that's 40, that's just about half a century. That's 40, what is it? 45 years ago. Wait a minute. No, it's 46 years ago. That was 46 years ago. And everything that they talk about, everything you hear in that document, just about every darn thing in it has echoed down the years. You've heard feminists everywhere saying similar things. It's like this is the hymn sheet from which they are singing. Now, I don't mean to imply that all of feminism came out of this document. It's just that this document is such a perfect sample or sampler of what was in the zeitgeist back in 1969 and what has developed over the years. So this is a one-stop shopping opportunity if you want to learn about feminism. all you got to do is read this and think about it, and then look at the world around you, and you'll hear echoes of the Redstockings Manifesto everywhere you go. The same attitude is all around you. Back then, it was limited to a small group of people, to people in certain radical circles. Now it's gone out into the mainstream. It's just part of the culture. It's become ambient, in a phrase. And Nick, any general impression you want to share about the Redstockings Manifesto, what we just got through reading?
No, you covered it all perfectly. Exactly what I heard there is, I mean, that's the game plan that they're working on. Obviously, that's their playbook, and it's they've had tremendous success with it. Clearly.
And of course, there is a lot more to feminism than what you read here. And we should not forget that feminism contradicts itself all over the place. All right. And the reason it contradicts itself all over the place is because if it really did operate by a consistent set of rules and kept to the same goalposts, it would quickly put itself out of business. They would get everything they wanted. They would have to stay within the lines and stay within the bounds, and there would just be a limit to what feminism could accomplish. And it's only by having all kinds of feminisms out there in the world with different and conflicting rules, all of which are available at any given time, at any given moment, to any woman who wants to use them. It's only by some such method that feminism is able to continue growing and expanding. You've got to continually go beyond the limits of the game, and the only way to do that is to simply break the game by breaking the rules, and that is what they do. They break the game by breaking the rules. They redefine the game, and when the game goes against them, they redefine the game again so that they're always ahead of the game, no matter what. But everybody, go and look at the Redstockings Manifesto. Take your own copy of it. Share it with other people. If you know somebody who's new to all of this, share the Redstockings Manifesto with them and point out to them all of the ways that what's written in this document, all the things here are with us today. All of these things have come true and come to pass over the years. It's all in. It's all in here. This Redstockings Manifesto has got it all, and I highly recommend it as a beginning text for any learner. And looks like we're coming up on, what is it, an hour and 15 minutes into our 2 hours. You know what? I'm not going to make this stretch for 2 hours. We've had a good time with the Redstockings Manifesto here. So everybody, go to Q number 3. That's cfproject.blog.com. This is where I always send you. This is the Poison Manifesto. This is the text. This is the backstory behind everything we talk about here on the Vanguard Report. Go there and give that a read if you haven't. That'll put you on the same page. And our email address here at the Vanguard Report is Q number 4, vanguardreport@usa.com. Pretty easy to remember there, vanguardreport@usa.com. And I think I'm about ready to wrap up the 1 hour and 20 minutes of this program. Nick, unless there's something you would like to share?
No, just a reminder again, like I do at the beginning and end of every program. I'd like to remind everyone to check out my YouTube channel, Men's Rights Edmonton, and my website, mensrightsedmonton.com, and you can follow Men's Rights Edmonton on Twitter at Men's Rights Ed. And of course, if you are in Edmonton or if you know anyone in Edmonton, have them drop me a line or drop me a line yourself, because I want to hang out with you if you are of the activated non-feminist sector. Have a good week, everybody.
Okay, and yes, everybody do go to the Men's Rights Edmonton YouTube channel and keep up on the great videos that are being put out regularly. And I think there's going to be more and more of those in the future. That's definitely a place you'll want to bookmark. All right, let's wrap it up. Episode number 44 of the Vanguard Report. Everybody, I'll say it again like I always do. Never forget, feminism is what we say it is. Remember that and make it stick. This is the battle for feminism's soul, everybody. Feminism doesn't tell us what reality is anymore. Now we put the shoe on the other foot. Feminism is what we say it is. We're going to make that the law of the land. We're going to make that reality. Feminism is what we say it is. We are the dictionary now. Everybody, have a good week, and we'll see you again next week on episode number 45 of the Vanguard Report. Take care. See you then.